So let's dispel a couple of myths first. So many people believe that they need to be at a certain revenue level in order to do certain things in their business. A lot of people will wait until everything in the business is on fire before they seek help. And when that happens, it makes it so much more challenging for me as a profitability strategist to help and to help quickly. And so that's why I love this formula so much, because usually if a lot is going on in the business, if there's a lot of fires to put out, you need some tactics that are going to help quickly while we create long-term sustainable strategies. So let's talk about this formula. And then, as I mentioned, today is a day that I am definitely planning to open the floor for people to have questions. I just ask that your questions pertain to the conversation for today. So if you have some paper or you take notes digitally, this is a training as opposed to an interview like I normally do. The Get P.A.I.D formula is an acronym. So P.A.I.D is the acronym that we're going to be working on. And as we start talking about the Get P.A.I.D formula, I want you to think about, where are you in your business? Are you just starting? Are you mid 6 figures? Are you at 7 figures? In my journey as a profitability strategist, I've spent most of the past 35 plus years being a fractional COO for names that you know, like Marriott and Avis and Budget Car and Truck Rental and Massage Envy, but also for coaches and consultants and medical practitioners, general contractors. I think I've worked with probably every single industry there is. And I've worked with from startup to, I had a client last year for 3 years who was at $100 million. And this formula worked for every industry, and it worked for every level of business. The question just becomes, how do you need to use it? So let's talk first about the P, and I'm only going to speak briefly about the P, and you'll see why in just a moment. The P stands for participate, and this is the most important letter of the Get P.A.I.D formula, because participate is you. It's all about what you need to be doing at this point in your business. Fixing websites and changing website colors and tweaking things that are not revenue generating activities is not the best use of your time. And certainly if you're at a point in your business where you are ready to get in that CEO seat, you're tired of putting out the day-to-day fires, you're tired of juggling all the balls yourself, and you are ready to step out of the weeds of your business and to sit in that CEO seat as the visionary, then participate is all about what you are doing. But in order for you to step into that CEO role, you need the A, the I, and the D. So we're going to sit the P here for a moment. We know that it's participate. And let's move forward with the other letters of the alphabet. This is also particularly important if you are at the stage of scaling, because until you manage this A and this I and this D, scaling your business is going to be almost impossible. So let's start with the A. The A stands for automate. I know at this point you've heard about automating. a million times, a million ways, in a million places. My question to you is, are you doing it though? Are you automating? And what are you automating? There's so much going on right now with AI and all of the things that software and tools and widgets and plugins can do for you. And they are important and they are necessary and they will help you make so much more money. Absolutely. The question is, what are you automating? Why are you automating it? And are you using the best tool for you and for your business? So I very often get the question, well, what's the best tool to use for email marketing? Well, what's the best tool to use for, text messaging? What's the best? It's the most popular question I get. And my answer to you is twofold. Number one, the best tool is the tool that you are going to use. And even more importantly, not the tool that you are going to use, because your goal is to step into the CEO seat, which means you're not using the tool at all. The goal really is to be able to answer, what is the tool that your team is going to use? What is the tool that your team loves? Because you can choose a tool, but if your team doesn't love it, if it doesn't resonate with their style or their personality in regards to workflow, they're not going to use the tool no matter how much you ask them to, or even beg them to, or even threaten them. And so when it comes to automating, it's really important for you to identify what your team is going to use, and then also to allow your team to help choose the tool. And so what does that look like for them? How are you allowing them to be part of the tool selection process? I actually send my team to vet tools. I don't vet them anymore because they know what we need to have done in the business. They know the level of excellence that I require. And so when they go and they vet tools, they are the ones that have to do the work. So they're quickly able to see that a workflow is not going to meet our needs. The other part of this, when it comes to automating, that I see happen so much, and let me just stop for a moment so that I can welcome Andre and also Eddie, and just to let you know that right now I am teaching the Get Paid formula. When I open the floor for hands to be raised and people to come on stage, that will be later after I am done teaching. And so, Eddie, I don't want you to feel that I am not acknowledging your hand being raised, but at present, I would like it if you could put your hand down. And when we get to that part of the call, I will open the floor for hand raising. Thank you so much for your patience with that part. And so moving back to the automation, the other thing that I see happen so often is people get bright, shiny object syndrome or easy button-itis. You hear about a tool, you hear it's amazing, you know, especially some of these all-in-one tools that promise to do every single thing that you want it to do, and you purchase the tool. One of two things happens. One could be that you realize the tool is so complicated and involved, it's not user-friendly, and so then you have to hire someone to manage the tool for you. So as the leader of your company, while I do not desire for you to click buttons and do the actual work, I do highly suggest that you at least know enough about how to use the tool to be dangerous. Because what I don't desire for you is to be held hostage by a tool or to be held hostage by a team member. One of the worst feelings in the world is to have a team member who knows how to work the tool. You're not happy with the team member and you really want to let them go, but because you don't know how to work the tool, you can't quite let the team member go until you find a replacement. Or it could be something even simpler. The team member is on vacation or the team member is out sick. You love them. You don't want to fire them. They're just not there. And there's something that needs to be done immediately. You need to know how to go into that piece of software and make those simple changes or simple updates yourself. And so that's part of automating and understanding what your role is in the process. And then the other challenge that I see is that people get tools that are too big for them. We saw a lot of this happen years ago with Infusionsoft specifically. Infusionsoft was extremely expensive, and for someone just starting out, they didn't need to take on that type of an expense. Plus, Infusionsoft was extremely confusing. And so just because you hear it's the latest and greatest gadget, right now everyone is on the Go High Level bandwagon. Every time that I hear someone teach, they are promoting and really shouting the praises of Go High Level, and or because Go High Level is a white label software, there's a lot of software out there that has a different name, but underneath that name is really Go High Level. And that's what white label means. It means that you can go to Go High Level. You can say, I want to white label your software under my company's brand, and everything about the software will be branded to your company. However, the actual software is Go High Level. That's the fastest explanation I can give you for white label without teaching a whole class on that as well. It is a very lucrative business. Just keep in mind, I just said that things sound great. They're not always as great as they seem. White labeling a software brings about, yes, you will now be a SaaS owner, and that's amazing. But you also are a SaaS owner who is now responsible for everything that goes wrong with this software, even though you're not the developer of the software. So there's some things that go along with what just sounded like an amazing opportunity, and it is. And I love Go High Level. So this isn't to bring shade about that software. What it is to tell you is that Go High Level has a lot of moving pieces, a lot of bells and whistles. And the majority of the people that I know have to have someone who knows how to use that software in order for them to use it. I am a tech geek. I know how to use almost every software there is, and I get a headache when it's time to do Go High Level. And it's just because it's an all-in-one platform. All-in-one means every single thing you need to do, from email marketing to a website to scheduling your social media to having a DM, a text message or DM marketing, to building funnels, to having landing pages, to making phone calls. I mean, it does everything. It is intended to replace the 10 pieces of software that you are currently using and only have to use this one piece. So it sounds amazing. It's just that most people won't tell you that it's very difficult to use. And so before you jump into any software, think about, again, what am I automating and why am I automating it? And how much of software do I really need, right? It's almost like going to a big box store, going to Costco or Sam's Club and you're single. Well, if you're single and you live alone and you're fixing meals for one person, then going to a big box store for your food could really be overkill, and you are paying for that. So consider these things when you're thinking about automating your business. Is there a time that's too soon to automate? No. As long as you're automating the things that need to be automated, and we're going to talk about that in the next letter. Is there a time that's too late to automate? Never, although I usually wish people would do it a lot sooner. And then lastly, I want to say this on the letter of A. AI is your friend. AI is not there to replace your team or to replace you. AI is just a tool. I have been a fractional COO for 35 plus years. I use AI every day, all day, because it makes some things that we have to do a whole lot faster, which then allows me to focus my brain brilliance on something else on behalf of my clients. What I notice on a regular basis is that I am fussing at AI. I am correcting AI. I am telling AI, that's nonsense. That's not true. That is not correct. I need you to give me X, Y, Z. And then AI says, oh, I'm sorry, you're correct. That wasn't right. And I need y'all to hear me on this, because if I am putting things into AI and I am the queen of prompting, I am amazing with prompts, and it's giving me incorrect information, I only know that it's incorrect because of my experience and expertise. What it's spitting out to me sounds amazing. And if you don't realize that this isn't true, then you are going to use information that isn't helpful to your business and could potentially be damaging. So I am a huge fan of AI. Understand that it is to help, but someone who's using AI needs to have some knowledge of what they're asking AI to give them so that they don't wind up in a trick bag. So we talked about automate. Now let's go to the letter I. I is isolate. Now, I love I. I is probably the letter that you will rarely ever hear anyone teach on. I is isolate, and it has two sides. There's the flip side of the coin. On the one side of the coin, you have the things that you're doing in your business or that are being done in your business that don't need to be done. Sometimes we get into the habit of doing tasks or doing tasks a certain way, and we never stop to review what we're doing. Do we still need to do that? Do we still need these steps? AI is another great example. Something that used to take my team 25 steps to do, and that's the way that the process in the SOP was written. Because of AI, it only takes us 3 steps now. So did I take the time to go and look at those processes to see what needs to be revised? Or did I just keep letting my team do that because that's what we were used to doing? And I hear so often when I go into new clients, they'll say, well, this is the way we've always done it. And that is a surefire sign for me that that business is on the verge of implosion, which means they are going to self-destruct from the inside as opposed to something from the outside destroying them. Never ever feel like that's the way we've always done it. Because if you are always doing something the same way and you're not tweaking and you're not refining, then your business is actually dead. It's not growing. The sure sign that your business is growing is the fact that you need to keep tweaking how you do things and your processes and your systems. And so the first side of isolate is looking at what no longer needs to be done. I find when I do profit leak audits, this is where I find most of the leaks. It's in isolate. It's the fact that the business is still doing things that are no longer necessary, that are no longer moving the needle, that are taking too long, that is requiring a lot of rework. And the same is true with automate. Isolate isn't just what are you doing. Isolate is also what software, what tech stack, what do you have in your business that you no longer need. I've looked at people's tech stack. It's part of a Profit Leaks audit, and I find overlapping tech. I find tech that they no longer need, that they're no longer even using but still paying for. I find duplicates. I ask, well, why do you have this and this? Because they're the same thing. And some of the CEOs who are in the role of CEO will say to me, well, my team said they needed it, they asked for it, and so I just told them to purchase it. And this goes to what I said earlier about being in the CEO seat doesn't mean that your hands are off. It just means your hands aren't inside of everything, touching everything. So now they're paying hundreds of dollars a month for software and tools that they don't need, that are overlapping, duplicating, some of them conflicting with each other, some of them don't talk to one another, and so it's making more manual work because you have tools that aren't communicating with each other. So isolate can be your tools, isolate can be steps, tasks, the process, and then isolate can be people. And this is probably one of the hardest things for leaders to embrace, because you can love your team. You can love everyone on your team. They can be amazing, and they could have been amazing at getting you to where you are today. The question is, do they have the skills, the work ethic, the leadership acumen to get you where you need to go next? That's really the question. Sometimes when we start hiring a team, we're hiring people that we need to do a task, which means that they can be followers. We don't need them to think. We don't need them to have ideas. We need them to do a task. But once your business reaches a certain level, you need people who are thinkers. You need people who have ideas and suggestions. You need leaders. So as you grow and you are doing isolate, you have to really sit and look at your team and identify whether they are still a good fit for not just where your company is, but where you're taking your company next. And sometimes that means they just need training. They just pay and send them to some courses if they have the character and the work ethic and the willingness to learn and that kind of thing. Absolutely, I am all in favor of my team learning and buying courses and programs. I've even hired coaches to come in and coach a team member on how to do something that I needed done in my business, because the team member has been very loyal to us for 3 years and they're amazing. But they did not have the gift of something that was part of their task. And it had to do with social media. We know how fast social media changes. So I couldn't really be upset with the team member because they didn't have a skill that became new to the marketplace. And I also didn't want to let them go just because this need is something new in the marketplace. So isolate involves so much. It involves everything in your business. It also involves partnerships that you may have. This may have been a great partner. This may have been a great ambassador. This may have been a great affiliate relationship. But what does it look like now, and what will it look like going forward? So the first side of isolate is to relieve yourself of the things that will not support and serve where you're going next. The other side of isolate doesn't require as much explanation, because the explanation will be the same, but now we're looking at what are the things that you know need to be done in your business and they haven't been. And it's not your fault that they haven't been. You were busy working on the things that were more pressing at the time. You may have been bogged down with some of the things on the other side of isolate that now no longer need to be done. And so especially if you're growing, if your business is moving into scaling, there are things that have been on that to-do list. You know they're important. You just haven't really had the bandwidth or the resources of people, time, energy, or money to do it. Top on my list is going to always be, top 2 for me, is going to always be follow-up. When I do those profit leaks audits, the other place that I find a whole lot of money is in the follow-up. The second place, which is huge, and they sort of go hand in hand, is customer experience. If you are, when you are, and any time that you are desiring to increase your profitability, customer experience is hands down the place to focus. Because if you love on your customers, then they will stay, they will continue to buy from you, and they will tell everyone else about you, your product, your service, how you treat them. You cannot market a thing. And if your customer experience is on fire in a good way, it will serve you immensely when it comes to profitability. And then the seed, the flower of that is productivity, because if you are able to spend more of your time, if your team is able to spend more of their time loving on your existing customers and they are buying more because of that, it's less time that you are spending in the hustle and grind of getting new customers. Besides the fact that it costs a lot more money to get new customers than it does to keep the customers that you have. And both of those things in turn give you more peace of mind. So customer experience is huge. It is one of the top areas that I see money leaking, rather not leaking, it's pouring. It is absolutely pouring out of your company because you're in the hustle and grind. You're just trying to keep up with all the fires that happen every day. You're just trying to manage customer service. It takes a totally different place in your mind to create a customer experience. Customer service and customer experience are not the same thing. And so if you only, in your stage of growing and expanding and scaling, If you only have the capacity to do one thing or two things in that growth, it's going to be follow-up and customer experience. So now we've done the I. A was automate. I was isolate. We know P is participate, but we're going to come back to that. And so isolate has two sides. It's what needs to go, what needs to no longer be done, who needs to no longer be on the team, the partnerships, the software. And then the other side is what does need to be there. What do you need to put in place? What software do you need that will now make the next level easier for you and your team? Who do you need on your team that you don't have now? What tasks have been being put on the back burner because you were putting out the fires on the front burners? So that's isolate. Now that you have isolated all of that, I want to backtrack only for a second, and I want to encourage you, if you are at earlier stages in your business, I would say if you are under 500,000 for sure, perhaps under $1 million, isolate before you automate, because you don't want to go and automate processes and systems and tasks that you realize during the isolate phase that you don't need. The reason that it's not first in the formula, other than the fact that that wouldn't spell paid, but the reason that it's not first is because I am usually working with clients who are beyond that point where we can automate first and then isolate, because it's an ongoing thing. We are doing this review every 90 days. So we're not so far behind the gun that we are concerned that there are isolate things that's going to infringe on our automate activities. So now we have D, and you may have guessed that D is delegate. And so you also would guess that it's important for D to be last, because once you've isolated what needs to be done, what doesn't need to be done, and then you've automated everything left that could possibly be automated, now you know what needs to be delegated. There's no point in delegating something and paying someone to do tasks that are going to be isolated, as in gotten rid of. And there's no point in paying someone to do tasks that a tool, software, widget, plugin, gadget can do and do better and more cost effectively. So D is always last. Now you know you've isolated everything, you've automated everything. Now you can look and say, these are the tasks that are left. These are the tasks that require a human's touch, a human's care, a human's love, a human's brain, a human's expertise, the ability for this human to pivot on a dime. When something happens, you need a human who can make quick decisions that are effective. That's what you then delegate. And so for delegate, I want to talk a moment about those different options, because a lot of people want to delegate, but they feel like their business cannot financially handle the expense of delegating, and or the CEO is so busy in their business juggling all the balls that they realize they don't have time to train someone, or they don't have time to even go through the recruiting and hiring process. So I just want to remind you that there are so many ways to do delegate. And before I do that, I want to welcome Janae K. Thank you so much for coming and sharing some time with me today. I am talking about the Get P.A.I.D formula. And in just a few moments, when I finish this D and I wrap it up with the P, I will be opening the floor for hands raised and people who have a question. And so, going back to the D, when you think about delegating, it does not mean that you have to bring on a full-time employee and pay FICA and all that. You can have someone who's part-time. You can have someone who's not an employee at all. They're an independent contractor. You can decide that you just need a one-off task, and so you're going to go someplace like Fiverr or Odesk, and you're going to hire someone just to do that specific task. They're not on your team. They're not staying after that. You just need this one task to be done. Please don't forget that you have internships. And even though internships are now expected to be paid, paying a stipend for an intern is a different level of expense than paying an employee or someone that you're going to have on the team long term. If you're interested in hiring an intern, a great place to look is colleges and universities, because the colleges and universities that have a formal internship program, you often do not pay them at all for an intern, because doing an internship is a requirement of their degree. And so because it's a requirement of their degree, they are not allowed to get paid for their work as an intern. So that's a great way to get an unpaid intern. But there are other internships where they are expecting to get paid. And then also don't forget about mentorship. If you have a certain type of expertise, there are people who would work for you for free so that they can sit under your tutelage and learn from you and glean from your expertise and how you do things. And so there is always that opportunity as well. So those are just some ideas regarding Delegate. Think very closely and clearly about what you need delegated, what it is, what tasks you need done. I also want to say this, and you know, different people feel different ways about hiring work from overseas. My perspective about that is people who live overseas have to eat, they have bills to pay, and they have families to take care of, just like we do here in the United States. The idea that people say we're taking advantage of them because a job that we hire for in the U.S., that a U.S. contractor would want $35 an hour for, we're only paying someone overseas $3 an hour. But what they fail to share is that the dollar is not the same in the Philippines. For example, someone in the Philippines who is making $3 and $4 an hour, they think they're rich. They think they have completely struck gold, and they will probably never leave you because the dollar is just not the same value there. So be careful about making judgments because people are on a bandwagon. If you have personal beliefs about this that are, you know, based on your core values, that's absolutely fine. I respect that. I just ask that you not make those decisions based on other people's prejudices and unnecessary judgments. And so if you are challenged financially, hiring overseas is an amazing way to get the support that you need in your business. So now let's circle to the P, so you understand now why I left it for last. And if you have a question, if you want to raise your hand and I bring you up on stage, you have something you want to share or ask, I am happy to do that. Please use the hand raising emoji at this point. And so we're going back to this P now. And the great thing about the P is that it is participate. It is what you are spending your time on. And that's only two things. The two things that I want you to spend your time on as the CEO of your business is number one, I call shaking hands and kissing babies. And that means that you're networking, you're out building relationships, you're out building relationships with colleagues, building relationships with prospects. If your target market is corporate, you're going to conferences, you're going places, you're going to golf, wherever your people hang out. Everyone that you meet is either going to be a resource, or let me rephrase that. Everyone that you meet is either going to be a prospect or they're going to be a referral. Everyone. So you need to be out. You need to be out of your office, from behind your computer. And I'm talking to me too, because I can stay behind this computer forever. And so you have to get out. Your job is shaking hands and kissing babies. And the second part of your job is the visionary of your company. It is to identify the vision for the company. Where is the company going? To be the person that articulates that vision to your team and to your colleagues and to your prospects and wherever else it is that you are sharing your message. And it is also to be the model, to be the example of that vision. That's it. You have two jobs. As the CEO, two jobs. That's it. Because everything else that happens in your company is isolated, it's automated, and or delegated. That's all. That's it. And when you make sure that that A, that I, and that D is strong, then you will easily be able to rise out of the weeds of your business, to stop having to focus on the day-to-day fires, and you will be able to take your throne as the CEO of your company and do so with ease, do so with increased productivity, increased profitability, and amazing peace of mind. And so, as I promised, I would open the floor to questions. And hi Simone, I am going to bring you up for a question. Yes, there you are. Hi Simone, how are you?
Hi, Dr. Linette. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me today. I love seeing you.
You're welcome. It's nice to be here. I look forward to your weekly teachings.
Thank you. So what's your question or thought? Ooh, I can't wait to hear. Last time you came on stage, you dropped some gems for us. So are you dropping gems, or are you asking a question, or both?
I'm actually going to ask you a question.
Sure.
Going in review of the isolation of the I in the P.A.I.D formula. When you talked about, there's two sides to it. And one of the side of that coin is, you talked about how, some organizations hire only followers instead of, people who are more innovators or leaders. And that, it might come a time where maybe they might have to get rid of a particular team member because they don't have a skill that is necessary to grow the business. But I'm wondering, have you come across any organizations that instead of actually getting rid of a team member, that it might be more profitable to invest in that team member? Like if there's new tech that came out, putting some money behind them learning a particular skill so that they can develop as an employee. And then in that case, they also have retention with someone who is, more committed to the organization.
Yes, absolutely. That is a great example of the story I was sharing about my team member who we hired for social media. And social media changed so much that I first sent her to some trainings. I purchased trainings from one of the best Instagram, in fact, coaches and consultants out there, but it was a training. And I still didn't see a lot of growth or success in her skills. And so then I actually hired a coach to coach her one-on-one. It wasn't a group coaching program. I paid the coach to coach her, to help her develop the skills, the knowledge, the understanding, but then also to work with her to create our new workflow for what was Instagram at the time. That was the specific platform that she was needing help with. And so for me, I am 100%. I don't think there's ever a time that I haven't gone for training or coaching or something for a team member before I ever considered letting them go. It's just, it's absolutely my style because I hired them for a reason. And I realized that if they desire to be part of our team and they love what they do. So here's my belief, Simone. I believe that you hire for heart, that you hire for character, not skills. I am a person who believes that almost everything that exists can be taught to someone. They can learn how to do the task, but I cannot train them to have the heart to want to do it and do it in excellence. And so when I hire people, my hiring process is totally different than what anyone has probably ever heard me do, and I will share that more. We have an audio live coming up that's specifically on HR. And so during that audio live, I believe it's next week. No, it's the week after. I'm going to share my hiring process because it's just completely different than anything most people have ever done. I want to know someone's character. I don't really care what your tasks are or what you've done or any of that. Because like I said, even if you've done that task for another company, this is a different company and how we want it done is different. I can train anyone, but I need to know who you are. I need to know who you be. That's what matters to me. So I do. I spend a lot of time and I invest a lot of money in my team's growth because I considered that when I hired them. And also, Simone, one of the things that I do during the hiring process, hi TC, how are you? During the hiring process, the onboarding process, once I've hired them, one of the questions I ask is them to give me a list of everything they know how to do. All the tasks they know how to do, all the software, widgets, gadgets they know how to do, all of it. And then the second question I ask is, give me a list of things that you would love to learn, personally or professionally. What would you love to learn? And so I am regularly going to that list and looking to see what things my team has said that they would love to learn. Because 9 times out of 10, there's things on that list that we need. And if they're an amazing team member and I want them to stay with the company, then them evolving and growing is very important to them as well as to us. And so, but likewise, it's not just about our company. So the person I just mentioned to you, they wanted to learn SEO. That had nothing to do with social media that I hired them for. And I actually don't need SEO right now. But what I do need is for my team member to be happy in her role. And so I recently saw this course from someone I trust on SEO. And last year I purchased the course and enrolled her in it, even though it's not her task. Somebody else handles that, but it's something that she desired to learn. But the equal side to that is it's not just about professional. I also am looking at that list for the personal things that they said they are interested in. And last year I had a team member who isn't with us any longer, but on his list, he said he always wanted to learn how to play guitar. Well, there's no brand that we have that has anything to do with guitar or needing guitar. But I happened to see this guitar training course, and I was like, oh, that is so cool. And so I bought the course and enrolled him in it. It had nothing to do with my company, and it had everything to do with who he is and him being happy in his life without it being about my company. So I 100%, Simone, am in favor of developing team members. What I'm not in favor of is investing the time and money and energy and effort into developing team members based on fear, based on the team member knowing how to do something in your business that you don't, and you're afraid to let them go, or whatever reason. I'm not in favor of it being based on fear. And I'm also not in favor of developing followers. We have to get comfortable with understanding that some people are followers, and that's okay, because I need someone to make my pizza. I don't need everybody to own the pizza parlor. So it's okay. We need followers. But we, especially as women, we're such nurturers that we want to nurture everyone. And we are sometimes not willing to recognize that someone is a follower and to allow them to be amazing in their follower role. We want to turn them into leaders, and then they start to have poor performance because they're not leaders. And I've done it. And that's why I know that it doesn't work. I've done it so many times. I am the biggest cheerleader of people's potential. And I've really burned myself and my company many times by trying to elevate a follower to a leader. Simone, how does that feel? Any thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I mean, yes, that's exactly the answer I was looking for, because, again, when you're talking about a team member that is willing and open to learning, they would have to be willing to do so. It's not someone that you should be like pushing. Even if you were to bring it to their attention, it's up to them to say, okay, yes, this is something I would love to do, or no, I don't think that, I'm not that comfortable with taking that step, but thank you for the offer. I think it's important for leaders to open up personal development that will, again, just enhance their organization. But yes, I love your approach. And by the way, learning the guitar is also on my bucket list.
Oh my gosh, that is so funny. Of all the examples that I would give, I think it's so cool how things like that seem to happen on every audio live. I will give an example randomly, and one of the speakers will say, "You're not going to believe this, but that happens to be." So okay. So then, what are you going to do, Simone? You're going to get a class?
The guitar is here. It's in my closet.
Okay.
It has a broken string because my niece broke the string some years ago. I'm actually a singer.
Oh.
So I've always wanted to learn the guitar. I will one day. It's not in my task list at the moment, but hopefully I'll be able to do it within a couple years.
Okay, now I don't want you to wait that long, Simone. Come on now. We have to find a way. You could take a bath, and you could do the guitar in the bath. You could.
You are so right.
You could be on your throne time in the bathroom. That's a good place. You get on your throne, and you can sit there and strum that guitar. We gotta have some way for you to start doing the guitar long before.
Thank you for the encouragement.
This year, you have time this year, because you have to get on that throne a few times a day. So you got plenty of guitar time. You're not doing anything else while you're sitting there. So.
For the free advice, coaching session, and the funny part about that is there is a instrument repair shop like 2 miles away, not even that far, like really close.
I love that. Yeah, please do. And when you do, and you're singing and you strum a tune, record it and DM it to me so that I can be excited, because this is the coolest thing ever.
I got you.
TC, do you have a question you want to ask or something you want to come on stage and share before we get off of here? You're welcome to. Simone, anything else?
Yes, just when you were talking about the P part of things, participate. Being a CEO of your business, being that leader, and your two main jobs, shaking hands and kissing babies. And I thought that was a really creative way to, remind leaders that they have a mission every day, and what that mission actually is. Because I think that sometimes leaders forget that it's all about building relationships. And I know that for someone like me, honestly, that can be a challenge. But I think that's a great reminder for leaders.
So tell me, while I have you, what did you think of the Get P.A.I.D formula?
Oh, it's definitely, I like it. I like it a lot. I like the fact that you really broke down each letter in, very clear, actionable items, So, yeah, it was very easy to follow. And as a matter of fact, I do have a quick question about AI.
Sure.
And so, well, actually, I think you might have answered it, because you mentioned that if a business is profitable, you gave a couple of numbers, 500,000 or something like that they should isolate. Well, I think isolate before they automate it.
Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, that was interesting. I was wondering why would that be? Because I'm thinking that, as a business progresses, that you might have to, as it grows, you might have to bring in a new piece of tech. You might have to assess and isolate, okay, how is this working out? So I was thinking that maybe that's something that is an ongoing thing and not just something that takes place after you isolate. Or do you isolate often? Like, is that a reflection on a regular basis?
Yes, absolutely. Isolate is one of the things that we do at least every 90 days. I believe in quarterly profit planning, and so that's really what my clients hire me to do, is to do with them their quarterly profit plan. And so every single quarter, we are actually going through the A, the I, and the D as part of planning their Profitable Empires framework. But this part is only a small part of the full framework, but we do it every 90 days. And so you are absolutely right. You always want to be looking for opportunities to isolate, without a doubt.
Okay, thanks for explaining that.
Absolutely. So is there a letter that is going to be your next step? Like, which one is really calling your name right now?
It's the P. It's the building relationships.
Okay. Perfect. Awesome. Well, if we have no more questions, I am happy to see that our phantom person has disappeared, because one of the things that I don't share on the audio lives that I probably ought to is I am not going to bring someone on stage who does not have a picture for their profile. I need for my speakers to be safe. I need my attendees to feel safe. And that doesn't feel safe. So I appreciate that. I can now close this in peace and mind.